talking Florida State football with Kurt Weiler from Knowles Sports, so please join him there for the very best in Florida State football coverage. And, of course, this is a very elite program. This year, let's add intriguing. To me, it's intriguing to see if this program is going to jump back quickly in Willie Taggart's first year to jump back where it's supposed to be, or if 7-6, despite the Francois injury, and that's what it's attached to, there are deeper problems and concerns in trying to keep up with the Clemsons of the world. On defense, about 6 starters lost. Of course, Josh Sweat was a tremendous defensive end. Derwin James, Tavares McFadden, 2 of the very best in the business in the defensive backfield. So are those real concerns? Because you can replace the stars in the recruiting rankings, but to replace that kind of production is difficult to do.
Depends on the position group. I think in the secondary, you feel really good about the young talent that you have behind them. I mean, a guy like Stanford Samuels III, a guy they just brought in, signed from California after he got an offer about a week before the early signing day, Jaden Woodby, a couple other, Hamson Nasruddin, Cyrus Fagan. There are a lot of young pieces where at corner and safety, you feel okay despite what you lost there. Where you're a little worried is at defensive end. You lost Sweat, as you mentioned. You also unexpectedly lost Jalen Wilkerson. He was a rotational player, didn't start last year, but kind of made the decision of, I think it's time for me to try and go test the waters of the NFL. And I mean, it's a decision where it could backfire. And I would say you don't expect him to be drafted. I think his goal is kind of hopefully ending up as a undrafted free agent who lands on a practice squad is kind of what he's aiming for, just of starting to kind of get paid to play football, which is of course respectable. Problem is that leaves Florida State hurting with returning talent at defensive end, especially with how much they're going to want to be rotating through with how fast the offense moves. And so, I mean, how many plays the defense is going to face. So I think that's the biggest concern. Otherwise, I think I feel okay about the defense. I mean, if I had to bet one way or the other, I would put it more towards this season coming up, more towards back what it was, as opposed to kind of 7-6 being the new norm.
We've got Florida State football front and center right here at MarkRogersTV, the voice of college football. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for the very best in college football coverage, analysis, discussion, debate with the likes of great media contributors like Kurt Weiler from Knowles Sports, and please join him there for Florida State football coverage. The audio versions on the typical platforms, Google Play, Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. All right, if you scan the field, Kurt, both sides of the football, who would be the breakout players for you? And when I think breakout players, I either think about a decent player who's already getting playing time that could emerge to be a star, or maybe a guy in obscurity. Maybe he was redshirted, but the team needs him to step into a gap and fill a void.
One guy that jumps out at me is DJ Matthews. He's a wide receiver. He played very limited last year, mostly after Jimbo had left in those last 2 games for the most part. He has really stood out so far in spring practice. We kind of knew his elusiveness, but he's really shown it. I mean, in the cat and mouse drills I was talking about, he had a couple plays that got kind of picked up actually by social media, and it got picked up by social media to the point where Lamar Jackson quote tweeted the clip of him juking these players, saying that's wild. He's going to thrive both in Willie Taggart's offense and in the slot, especially. He's a tinier, more elusive guy who I think could have, a really, really strong, will be the biggest beneficiary of both a coach willing to play younger players and a coach who's in more of a spread offense.